Hi, my name is Hayden Hall, and this video is for training purposes that will be done by employee to employee. If you are experiencing unwanted political discourse in your workplace or want to jump ahead of it before it happens, this video will help you. If you have not already watched our intro video or taken our course quiz survey yourself, I highly suggest that you do this before you watch this video. You will train others best if you fully understand the proper information. With that said, let's begin. You may be thinking, why am I training my fellow employees? Or why would an upper management do this? Or why can't this just be sent in an email to everyone? You may have been picked for a number of reasons. Regardless of the reason you have been picked for this training, you should be proud to be able to train your fellow employees. This will create a sense of community amongst you, which will improve your workplace culture as a whole. If you are already experiencing issues regarding these topics, this could also help bring everyone back together on a common ground. This training can be done over a Zoom meeting, in person, or even email and/or over another online program if absolutely necessary. However, in person is always recommended, and an online meeting is the next best thing, especially in these unprecedented times. Most people will be doing and should be doing Zoom meetings for the safety of their employees. But you should encourage that everyone has their video enabled to still have a sense of community during your presentation. First, you should make sure your trainees know that discrimination in the workplace should never be tolerated. If you or another employee is experiencing discrimination of any kind, please contact HR or some other person who can help you get this resolved. While political discrimination is not yet covered under the Equality Act, it should not be tolerated by your employer. I recommend briefing your trainees on the policies at your workplace specifically, as they can differ from office to office. Now would be the time in the presentation to pass out any printouts you have made for the meeting, if you're meeting in person. You may also ask your fellow employees to watch our intro video and take the survey before the meeting, or you may wish to do this as a group. Either way can be successful. One allows the employees to do these on their own time, and their own creates another nice environment to learn as a team. If they have done these activities on their own beforehand, you could spend the first few minutes reviewing the information. The next bits of information can be done in any order. I will just be providing you with this information and how to go about it, but you do get to decide everything else. You know your specific workplace and fellow employees better than me. And remember, while you're giving this training session, you are in a leadership position. You are still their equal, however. You should know that you should show them the same respect that you wish back from them. And a presentation on discrimination of political opinions or discrimination of any kind should never be spoken with a sense of I'm better than you or the message just won't go through. You may in fact find that this gives the opposite message of what you're looking for. So be careful to be respectful during your presentation. Without further ado, here are my 10 tips for a healthy workplace regarding politics. These are tips that I've gathered from reading multiple sources, and all those sources will be linked down below. The first 6 are for in the office, and the last 3 are for outside of the office. Tip 1, don't assume. Just because someone identifies as LGBT does not mean they are a Democrat, and just because someone who owns a gun does not mean they are a Republican. Tip 2, avoid it if you can. For example, I wouldn't hang a flag for a specific candidate in your workspace. This pretty much goes for any political declaration. It's very easy to be distracted and offended by this during the workday. And if you're being distracted by a political flag instead of doing your work, then it's no longer a safe place for your work. So work should be kept at work, and political opinion should be kept outside of the workplace. Tip number 3, turn it off. Try to keep news channels off of the computers or televisions and shared spaces. You may not have any specific rules to your own computers at your home desk or your desk at your office, but it's best to keep it off in a space where the employee shares, such as a lunchroom or office meeting space, somewhere where there's an understood rule that everyone is welcome and everyone is available to use it. Tip number 4, think before you speak. You never know who is in the room with you or that may have different opinions while they hear you say something, and you might offend them. And if you do say something that offends someone, please apologize and try to stop any arguments from happening by suggesting a new topic. Take this as a learning opportunity and just try to grow from it, and don't hold any grudges. Tip number 5, don't shove it in someone's face. Let's say that it's the day after an election. So don't call attention to your winning candidate by calling it "my candidate won," or going into the office that morning and saying "my candidate won, your candidate lost." Everyone probably knows who wins, and they don't need you exclaiming about it, especially if it's the person they didn't vote for. Some people might be quite upset the day after an election if their candidate has not won. And there just isn't a reason to call attention to it. Tip number 6, don't ask. This one is pretty simple. Don't ask who someone voted for. Don't ask why they didn't vote for your candidate. Don't ask questions like, aren't these Democrats or Republicans or whatever just the worst? You don't want to start an argument based on candidacy, and it's just not a very respectful question to ask. So just don't ask your employees or your bosses, even anyone entering your workplace. It's best to just not ask what their political affiliation is. Now on to number 7. Lunch is for lunch. So now we're getting into the instances that are going to be outside of the workplace. And a lot of companies nowadays, thankfully, are having activities such as bringing other employees to lunch during the workday, which is a great team building activity. However, it does seem often that over the sharing of food, political conversations seem to pop up. One thing that I can think of is holiday dinners or holiday lunches. Usually when politics get brought up, it's not the best of outcomes. So I would keep the same wanting to kind of not talk about that as you would at a holiday dinner. If you know, for instance, one of your family members has very strong opinions that are opposite of yours, in my case, I usually just don't talk politics with them, and usually don't talk politics at all at holiday dinners, because they're for spending time with family and not time for talking about politics. So it's the same in a work lunch. It's a time to hang out with your colleagues and discuss things over lunch, discuss things about work over lunch, get to know them better, but getting to know them better doesn't mean and shouldn't mean getting to know their political affiliations. There's plenty other things to talk about during this time. And now to tip number 8. You probably shouldn't tweet that. So if you're having a public social media account, if that's allowed at your workplace, some offices allow that, some offices don't. So if you can't have a public social media page where you can disclose your opinions, I would be careful about what political opinions you do disclose on your social media accounts. You never know if an employee is going to see that, and then if a fellow employee or even boss sees that and brings some kind of grudge or brings an argument from outside into the workplace because of something that you've posted on social media. Especially, I think we're all very common with Facebook debates, so it's better just to not respond to any negativity or hate regarding your political candidate, and same goes for you on both sides. You shouldn't post any hate or respond to any hate. It's just really asking for an argument to ensue, and it's very easy to bring that negativity outside the workplace into the workplace, which makes it not a safe environment, and it also takes the work out of the workplace. It puts more of an emphasis on personal opinions rather than what everyone there is actually there to do, which is just work and to get their jobs done. Tip number 9, outside gatherings. If you see a fellow employee in the line to vote, perhaps, don't ask who they're voting for. This could be similar to any situation. If you're seeing them outside at, say, the grocery store over the weekend, don't ask them who they're voting for around, an election time, or if it's election day or after you just voted, maybe, if you see them at a grocery store, don't ask them who they voted for. You could very easily see an employee and still have a nice, simple conversation without talking about politics. Again, I'm going to mention this a lot and have mentioned it a lot. It just causes negativity to be brought into the workplace, and it's not needed, nor is it helpful to discuss these things. And now my last tip, which is particularly good for the times we're in right now, and this is regarding Zoom meetings. So just as you would if you were going to have a respectful and productive Zoom meeting with your colleagues or your boss, you want to make sure you're dressing nice. That goes along with your work dress code. For instance, if your work dress code is to wear a button-up shirt like this, you wouldn't want to wear some graphic t-shirt if that's not what you would wear to the office. Similarly, you want to have a nice plain background like I do right now, so you're not having anything too distracting. And so this also goes with political affiliations. I'm sure some of you have political flags supporting a certain candidate, or decorations maybe in your homes or apartments or temporary workspaces right now. So you want to keep that outside of the video because it just creates a distraction and creates the opportunity for an argument to ensue in your Zoom meeting or over the chat. And then we'll bring that into your work area, your work mindset, which is not what we want to do. So we want to make sure our backgrounds and our clothes are being respectful while we're doing these online work times. So those are all of my 10 tips. Those are all the things that I would recommend based on the research that I've done. And as a trainer, you may pick which ones you want to discuss. And you can, and this is encouraged, to add examples relating to the specific rules at your company. Don't use previous arguments at work for these. You should make up your own. This will help create a sense of community and solidarity if you use examples that can closely relate to your employees without calling out specific employees on past arguments or past issues in the workplace, because this can bring up that negativity again. And if it's in the past, we want to keep it in the past and focus on moving forward. You can use the employees to show examples by using them in skits, using their names in examples, or asking them to give their own examples. So let me give an example of what this could look like for you. Let's say you have an employee, Sally and John. You can ask them to come up and act this out or just explain it. We'll use an example regarding my tip number 5. So it's the day after a presidential election. Sally and John voted for opposing candidates. Sally comes into work with a new desk decoration. It's a huge flag with the name of the winning candidate on it. Again, this is the candidate that John did not vote for. She proudly hangs it up for everyone in the office to see, and unfortunately, John shares the workspace with her. John asks respectfully to take it down and that he has nothing against her for support of this candidate, but he would prefer politics to stay out of the workplace. Sally raises her voice to say, "All you snowflakes are the same, offended by everything. It's just a flag. And they won. There's nothing you can do about it now. Just mind your own business and accept that you lost." Obviously, not every day we see something this extreme, but I think we can all think of someone who is a little louder than others about their political beliefs in the workplace, and it definitely shifts the work life for the other employees around it. It's much easier to get along and do your work if you aren't worrying about Sally flowing her flag in your face. All of this training is ultimately to help you and your employees. It isn't about censoring as much as it's about keeping work at work. No one can force you or anyone else to do or not do anything, but there will always be consequences for your actions. No one wants to take away your freedom of speech, but everyone can be thoughtful of their actions and words and how they affect those who work with them so closely every day. I hope this video was somewhat helpful to you, and so you can achieve a respectful community in your office with your fellow employees through training them from employee to employee. The sources that I read helped me craft these tips are all going to be linked down below in the description of this video, and they are also going to be linked in the Group 2 section of Canvas. A few of the articles I used, one was from Google, in a New York Times article that has actually banned any political discussion in their workplace. And they did this just to protect the workers, to make sure there was not going to be any discrimination, and to do what I said earlier is to keep work at work and keep as many opinions that could affect the way you're working outside of the workplace. I've also again linked to that survey in this document, and you will be sent this document either through your higher level management position or just sent through your email, or you can find it again on this Canvas page that these training modules will be on. So take a look through the sources, take the survey, feel free to go watch the other videos, and I encourage you to watch our intro on this topic. And again, thank you so much for watching. My name's Hayden Hall. I hope you've got a great day, and I hope this has given you some information on how to properly train your fellow employees on political discourse in the office.